Well, apparently it's the Wild West out here where they're just kind of just firing people left and right. They don't really care why, what, who, when, where. They don't really care. They don't care about any of that. And nor should they actually care about any of that because they're just saving money. And if anybody knows anything about aggressively saving money, sometimes you have to fire people whose jobs are really important. But it's kind of funny because I just like imagine like this stockpile in like Wyoming of nukes and like no one's there watching them. And like there might be like 2 or 3 people who are new who are like, what is going on? Like, what do we do here? And so now I guess we're going to figure it out. It's CNN, so I can never really trust what a news outlet says. They all have their own agendas, but I guess we'll figure it out here in just a minute.
I mean, what?
I mean, it tells us more and more about Doge task itself with government efficiency, but doesn't know the inner workings of government. These are people who are not government employees, have never served in any level of government before. These are individuals who are slashing and dashing in whatever way that they can. This particular story affects me on a personal level because my cousin received.
How does this affect her on a personal level? Does she like have investments in nuclear stockpiles?
One of those letters. He works there.
And what did it say? How did
he work?
Phrase it?
Essentially the same way that they did the ones that we heard about 2 weeks ago. It didn't necessarily say exactly when these people would get paid or if they would get paid. It was, today is basically your last day.
Hearsay.
And to not report
Hearsay.
back. Extremely short, maybe 3 sentences. And for someone in my cousin's case who...
Well, like, if their job has been unnecessary the whole time and they think that their job has been unnecessary the whole time, like, why would they give them 2 weeks? Why would they pay them for extra time? Why would they do that? If they're really, like, not useful.
Who's worked there for well over a decade, almost 2 decades, actually, 16 years. At this point, it was a very tragic situation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really tragic that somebody's job was unnecessary for 16 years, maybe. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't know what the hell's going on, but, like, I'm just going to assume that we really don't need these people and that they're blowing this out of proportion until like somebody's out there stealing our nuclear weapons.
Okay, let me ask you this, because we just saw this rather extraordinary press briefing with Elon Musk standing, the president sitting, and he said, you know, I'm going to make mistakes. I might sometimes not say the true thing, but, you know, you guys will tell me that I'm making mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Is this just a big freaking honking mistake that is affecting potentially the nuclear stockpile and the lives of those who have been working there as experts?
I swear. Y'all just really go have these people, these conservatives screaming at me because they're going to say, that's a Republican who disagrees with something that the Trump administration did. Now, when it comes to, my larger problem is the attacks on the federal government worker. As if, for one, they don't pay taxes, and that they're not voters. Like, there's this character.
I mean, they're just assuming that this wasn't a waste of money to begin with, and that we weren't wasting money having people basically babysit stockpiles of nuclear weapons. Like, I get it if you're a scientist and you need to be there to develop the weapons. I get it if you are there as an engineer and you're there to maintain the weapons. And I get it if you are running security to make sure that the weapons stay safe. I don't believe that there's that many people in needs. Oh, Rogelio DeBase and Attilol, which sound like pretty decent names. You guys have awesome names. Thank you for following. Thank you for joining us here. Back to what I was saying. Yeah, so if you're unnecessary, like, I just don't understand why you would need more than maybe like 8 people per nuke. And if you have 15 people per nuke and they've been working this job for the last 16 years, then you've been wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, I mean, yeah, get rid of them if they're unneeded. I don't think that, like, a lot of these people are getting fired, more like relocated. I mean, they're military workers. And the one thing we know about the military is that we are running low on military-aged people to be in the military and make it run efficiently. So why would we fire these people from their jobs? I'm pretty sure we're just relocating them to where they're needed. It's not like we're just cutting people out of our military right now.
characterization of federal government workers as lazy. Say all of this is kind of built into that. And so this very indiscriminate number, these people exist at these agencies for a reason. What I would like for the Trump administration to do, even in explaining, this whole transparency argument, is to do an assessment of what it is that you need. I am very skeptical that they've been able to do an assessment to see what they need at these agencies before.
Isn't that kind of like the whole point, is that they're assessing all of this stuff and they've decided they don't need them, so now they're fired? I mean, that's kind of was the whole point, was it not? I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, you guys.
Just as we get 300 here, there's another 400 here, because there is an impact to that. And so what I want to hear from the Trump administration is, we've covered all our bases, and it seems here, at least with this particular story, that they didn't. Oh, yeah, just make this.
I guess as the other Republican, I'll do you a solid and stand with you on this one, okay?
There we go.
But it is the risk of the burn it all down approach, and it's the risk of using ignorance as a tool to burn it all down. There's certainly pressure from those who voted for this, who want things to happen fast. And so DOJ, the Trump administration, is moving quickly,
But it's not like they didn't anticipate winning this election and then have like a plan in place. I know that there's something called Project 2025, which I don't know if this is a part of that or whatever. And I know that it's a really conservative agenda and it scares a lot of people, especially like people who are more liberal and who voted Democratic. They're pretty scared of the whole idea. I don't know very much about Project 2025, but I imagine that it's not new. It's not like they just went into office and was all like, oh, well, let's just cut shit over here. Let's cut shit over there. They had like time to anticipate winning the election and then do the things that they were planning on doing. I'm sure they had everything aligned. It's not like they got into office and then one day they were all like, you know what? Let's do this. No, that's not how it works.
But it comes at the expense of making mistakes. I will say this, though. We also saw that this is kind of like, zero-based budgeting
that guy's hairline's
in a
worse than
way,
mine. Jesus.
right? Where you have to justify some of these agencies and their responsibilities. Members of Congress, nothing is a sacred cow. Members of Congress made calls, they complained, they made the case, voila, it was fixed, and they reversed it. Maybe we'll see that happen with some other agencies. Maybe we won't. Thankfully, it happened for this one.
But this particular one's tool and utility is actually in the name. So it doesn't even take that much for them to kind of figure out what they do. I think that in the whole burn it all down approach, they're recognizing that people on the ground have a lot of
I think you're assuming that it's a
distrust.
burn it down all approach. I'm pretty sure this is all pretty calculated. And if they do make mistakes, I mean, who are they going to answer to? What are they going to do?
And disinterest in government, and quite frankly, are upset with systems in general. So they're using that to fuel the fire to eradicate things that put America at risk. And when we talk about things like this, we're talking America's national security. For the Republican Party, which is run on the safety and protection of the United States and being a leader of the world when it comes to our military, to ensure that they are hurting people in this process where we know what our adversaries are doing. We know that they want to attack America's greatest weakness, and many of them cheered it on when President Trump got elected because they recognized his folks don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, considering that we spend more on our military funding than what was it, like the next 10 countries combined, if we're just cutting staff here and there, obviously, we're just here to save money, and we're still going to be spending too much.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think you're exactly right. And look, Democrats, there are a lot of Democrats in Congress who are willing to give the Trump administration a chance when they said, we want to go in, we want to create more government efficiency, we want to do a complete audit. But you don't do that within the first 3 weeks of the administration when
Yes,
you don't.
they
First of all, you have people who have never worked in government.
They said, hold my beer. I'm going to get this all done in record time.
Who have no fundamental understanding of how the process works, number one. And number two, these are the stories that we have to tell. If we are going out to talking to Americans, talking to voters and saying, this is why you have to do it the right way. We have to tell the stories about how this is going to hurt the safety of Americans, how this could impact.
I don't think it will. I think that it's nuclear stockpile staff, and I believe that a nuclear stockpile doesn't take that much effort, time, and it's not like there's, although I do think it's funny to imagine, it's not like there's a stockpile of nuclear weapons that is just completely abandoned and like nobody's there to do anything to protect it. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. Obviously, there's probably 20 people doing 10 people's jobs, and then at 10 different silos or 50 different silos, and they cut the people, they fired them all. I mean, that's probably what happened. How many people does it take to guard a pile of material?
You know, farmers with some of the USAID cuts, we actually have to put these in layman's terms so that people can actually understand that, yeah, sure, everyone wants government to work more efficiently. Everyone wants their taxpayer dollars to be stretched to the furthest. But when it starts to hurt you and your neighbors and your families, those are the stories that we have to tell.
Everybody's right.
Oh, there's a hot take.
There we go.
I'll tell you, there's another thing here that really bothers me, Sarah. And
it's all hearsay.
And this is a type of hypocrisy that I've seen for a while now. There's always been, you know, this kind of hyperventilating, rightly so I should add, over protecting middle-class workers and the working class and that sort of thing, unless they work for the government. Then they don't count. Then they're not real Americans all of a sudden. Then their jobs are disposable. You can cut them off immediately.
Okay, everyone's job is disposable. No one's job is safe. If something else can do the job for cheaper and you get kicked out, then you get kicked out. That's how it works. And if you feel like the government or that you should be saved, or then you obviously just don't know how the world works. You obviously just don't know that people don't care. They just don't care about you. And you're not important, and to them, at least, you're important to me. If you're here especially watching this, then you're important to me. But, you know, you're just overall, in general, as the people who are getting fired, as people who are getting let go from here, you're just not needed. You're just not needed. So why would somebody spend the money on you? And if you are needed, guess what? You have a job, and they're spending the money on you.
That is a different type of elitism that has now crept into, you know, the right. Where there's an elitism against working class people who have civil service jobs. When I was growing up, for black people, people of color, civil service jobs is one of...
Yeah, but nobody's upset with the firefighters, you know? Nobody's pissed off at their mailman. Like, these are government employees too. And I can tell you that I, every single year, used to give a card with either a gift card in it or money in it to my mailman or person or woman, whoever it was, because I appreciated them. They're government employees. And so are firefighters. Have you ever seen somebody hate a firefighter? Have you ever seen somebody sad that the firefighters are getting fired? Absolutely. People would be pissed, especially in California right now where we need firefighters. Nobody was backing them up before the fires had started. Nobody cared that they were letting all these firefighters go and they weren't hiring anybody to replace them.
One of your only ways to get into the middle class. You were told, my father was told to be a janitor when he was in school, and he was brilliant. He actually went back to school, became a doctor, but he was a probation officer for years. And that wasn't necessarily your ceiling, but man, was it a way for people to, you know, have middle class lives, send their kids to school, all these types of things.
Generation.
Yeah, yes, but those jobs are important. They're jobs, and also people feel good about working civil service jobs many of the times. Many times they get really good benefits from doing those jobs that you can't get in the private sector. To have it wiped away, and and it's, to me, it seems like they're just laughing about it. The way that I think Musk is too flippant about the way that he does it. Thoughtful consideration about.
I don't think that protecting people's feelings is going to help them whenever they're getting fired from their job. Like, I don't think being nice to people because, like, they're getting fired, dude. Like, you don't have to tiptoe around that fact. Give it to them straight and let them get on with their lives. You're screwing them over. Why would you try to be nice and pretend that you're, like, a good person while you're doing it? I mean, at least Trump is kind of a D. He's kind of an a-hole. But, like, at least you know he's being honest with you and he's not, like, trying to save your feelings. Like, yeah. I mean, sure, it's good to have some tact and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, if your job wasn't useful, then you've just been milking the system the whole time anyways. That's why people are upset. That's why people care. That's why people don't care about the government workers losing their jobs, is because we have to pay taxes in order for them to have that job, right? Because if you get let go at Amazon and people are like, then they're negatively affected. Sure, they don't get their packages or whatever, but like, we didn't have to pay for them. They were free for us.
Cutting these things, nobody can complain with. Of course, there's fraud and waste in government. We all want that to go away. But you have to be more thoughtful about it because these are people's lives.
At one point near the...
But do we have to be more thoughtful about it? I mean, you let me know. I, for one, think that we should be letting go people whose jobs are unnecessary. I don't care if it's in nuclear energy. I don't care about any of that nonsense. But it seems to me that people are just making a big deal out of nothing. So thanks for that roundtable, CNN. We're going to continue to watch more YouTube.